Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to use a particular AI software to make a comic book. So, let's get into it. So, this software I'm going to be talking about is called Midjourney. Now, if you've been living anywhere other than under a rock, you'll know what Midjourney is. As Wikipedia says, it's a generative artificial intelligence program and service. Now, Midjourney generates images from natural language descriptions called prompts, similar to OpenAI's DALL-E, which I'll cover in another video, and Stability AI's Stable Diffusion. But in today's episode, we are just going to use Midjourney and, of course, my old favourite, ChatGPT. So where do we start? Well, at the beginning, as usual. At the end, I will show you my final product, which you can tell I'm not a professional, but it's still a very good start for somebody who struggles to draw a stick man. So I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. So like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to head on over to my old pal ChatGPT. Now, as I've said before, here's one I've made earlier. I will take you through all these steps and what they mean, but effectively, you need to use ChatGPT for ideation. And what that means is using its incredible power to generate ideas for you. What I did is I put in, write a Victorian comic starring a young poor girl called Nell, because I've got my friend Nell, who I do the Spooky Shenanigans podcast with, plug, that lives in a workhouse, and her friend, a man called PJ, shock, that's also a ghost, but doesn't believe it. The story of the comic is that Nell meets PJ for the first time after running away from the workhouse. It should feature some sad moments to begin with, but end quite comically to show a budding friendship between the two. The comic will be 10 pages. For each page, write a scene description and text for 4 comic panels. Now, if you've been watching my channel from the start, or 2 videos ago, you'll know that I said that input equals output on ChatGPT. And again, it is the same principle here. When you're setting the scene, we need to be looking at what sort of time period. That's why I wrote Victorian comic. I introduced some of the characters, Nell, PJ, what they are, he's a ghost, and sort of the basic outline of the story, because otherwise ChatGPT is going to come up with some totally random stuff. Again, I've got what all good stories have, emotion, sad moments, but then end quite comically, because my audience for this is going to be people that don't particularly like to be sad all the time. Then I said the comic will be 10 pages, because otherwise ChatGPT will just make up its own rules. For each page, write a scene description and text for 4 comic panels, because that's the information I'm going to pull out at a later date. This is what ChatGPT came up with. Okay, see here, page 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down. So it comes up with quite a comprehensive idea. You can create a fan fiction comic if you want, so you could do Star Wars, Star Trek, Dune, Lord of the Rings, whatever you fancy. The world is your oyster with this. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to then shoot on over to Midjourney and use these as inputs for Midjourney to generate your images. So let's head on over there now. Okay, so now we're on Midjourney. First thing you want to be doing is coming up with a cover idea for your comic, because you don't buy a comic and you literally the comic's there in front of you, dear. So you need to create a cover. This is where you need to be a bit creative yourself and come up with some ideas. As you can see here, I put Nell, a young Victorian girl, and PJ, an older man, grammatical error, an older man who happens to be a ghost, hiding behind crates from guards. Now, if you want to create that comic book feel, you need to put these in. These are prompts that are important for Midjourney, because otherwise it'll just come up with photorealistic stuff, which you might want, but not for the sort of comic book feel. So put those in, and it comes up with some options, which, looking at it, not the greatest, I would say. I mean, this one looks pretty cool, because I thought, well, if you put them hiding behind crates from guards, it might create that sense of action, mystery, danger. But then it came up with these, and I thought, well, he's too old and doesn't look like a ghost, and she's locked in a cage, not behind a crate. Bit of a bad impression there. This one, he's kind of floating and attached to her, so isn't too bad, but also still a bit strange. This one, she's hiding in a crate, no sign of PJ the ghost. And this one, again, not how I wanted Nell to look, so... And it's not really a front cover of a comic book that goes, read me, so I was like, maybe not. So that's what needs to happen. You need to play around with it a bit and play around with some of the titles, etc. And then it'll come up with some things. So when I changed it to Nell, the young Victorian girl, and PJML Ghost stood outside a workhouse with fear in their eyes. It came up with these, which seem a bit better. Hence why the final product ended up being this one, which I thought, that's a reasonably good front cover. But you need to play around with it, and you'll ultimately come up with what works for you. So remember those prompts that we asked ChatGPT to come up with to create these images? You now need to put those into here. So, like I said, now a young Victorian girl sneaks out of a grim workhouse at night, and it came up with these options. Now, you need to take the prompts that you saw over on ChatGPT, put them into Midjourney, like so. It'll generate images, and you just have to keep playing around until you find the right variations. Then another tip for you, if you find a particular picture you like, and then you go to create another one, and it's nothing like the first picture, then what you need to do is make sure that you have put in that she wears a white dress, or she has dark hair, because then it'll change this weird blue grey dress to this, which is a white dress, so you've got consistency in your comic, which is important. So play around with that, come up with your images, and then once you've done that, you need to take all of those images and we will shoot over to Canva. Sorry, I forgot at the start of the video to mention Canva. It's not really an AI, even though they've started to bring AI options into the software. But it's still very good if you're a creative or some sort of marketing professional. I use it all the time to create my thumbnails and things like that. But you can also create your comic book strip using this. Okay, so shoot over to Canva. If you've never used it before, I'd say to register an account because it's very useful. It's perfect for all of your design needs. And somebody who never did any design before, because my ex-partner was a graphic designer, I never had to touch any of this. This makes things so much easier. I've got the professional option, which means you have to pay, I think it's like £8 a month or something to get access to all of its features, which is a small amount if you're going to use it all the time. But it does give you access to free options. But what you go to do is pop up here, look for comic book, click that in. Then as you can see, it comes up with a few options which seem more like graphic novels. So if you feel like your comic book cover, you'd prefer something like this, then by all means, choose one of these and then change it to suit your comic book style. But what you can do is click comic in, then click comic strips, and this will give you access to templates for you to change, add your pictures in from the images that have been generated on Midjourney, and just make a nice overall professional feeling comic. And there we have it. You're going to have your completed comic book, and hopefully it's going to be amazing. A lot better than mine. Might not be up to Stan Lee's standard yet, but with a bit of work and practice, it could be. Who knows? You could actually be an illustrator already who just wants to harness the power of AI, or could be a complete beginner like me. And there are many options for this. You could print your comic off for personal reasons, just to go, I've made a comic book. Look at this. Hang it on the wall behind you. Or you could be more commercially minded and decide to monetize it. Stick it on Amazon Kindle as a downloadable comic. You never know. There are lots of revenue stream options with it. It's great. Now, for the final part, I will share with you my terrible kind of creation, which took inspiration from Spooky Shenanigans, my podcast. Another plug. So, are you ready? Here it is. Ta-da! Spooky Shenanigans. I can't stay here any longer. Runs away from the workhouse. Goodbye, cruel workhouse. So tired. Free, but so tired. Lost, are you? Who goes there? So there you go. There's my comic. Hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. You understand a bit better now how to use Midjourney and ChatGPT and even Canva to make a comic book. What I've done is I've created a helpful guide how to create comic books. So you can watch this video, but I've also created a guide for you to download, which should make things a little bit easier for you. And it's easier to read, more visual. Drop a comment below saying you want access to one, and I will get one over to you. But until then, see you on the next video. Bye.